So I get a call from this woman who asked me if I'd be willing to evaluate her son. I said yes, but the first step is you have to come in and talk to me. I need some background information. You and your husband. She said, well, I can't come with my husband. She said, we're divorced. I said, okay, then if you can't come with your husband, then I'll see you alone. So she came in and I said, why do you want to have your son evaluated? How old is he? 6 years old. I said, so what's prompting this need for an evaluation? So I'll tell you. Last week, my son started to cry when I put him to bed. And he says, I want Tati. I want Tati. She says, well, Tati doesn't live here anymore. You know that. It's nothing, but I want Tati. I want Tati. Tried to put him to sleep, wouldn't go to sleep. So finally I see that he needs to sleep, 6-year-old boy. So I called up my ex. I said, listen, I know it's not your night, but he won't go to sleep without you, so would it be okay if he came to you tonight? She said, sure, no problem. I'll be right over, I'll pick him up. I'll get in the car and drive over. So my ex comes over, takes him, and give him the pajamas, everything, and he goes to my ex's house. About 20 minutes later, I get a call from my ex. So what's the problem? So I'm putting him to bed. He says, I want mommy. I said, look, my ex says to me, listen, you were just at mommy's house. And you said you wanted to meet. No, I want my mommy. I want my mommy. I said, I'm trying to put him to sleep. Come, look, you have mommy tomorrow night. No, I want mommy. I want mommy. I said, what can I do? He says, he won't go to sleep. I guess he wants to go back to you. Can I bring him over? I said to my ex, of course. Bring him over. I'll meet you at the door and I'll take him and go to sleep here. So the father brings the boy back to the mother's house and drops him off. And as he drops off his son, the son starts screaming, Tati, don't leave. Don't leave. Grabs his leg and he's crying, throwing himself on the floor. Please, don't leave, don't leave. So I don't live here anymore. This is where your mother's house. You wanted your mother. You wanted me, you came to me, you want your mother. You have to stay here now. I don't live here anymore, I'm sorry. And it was a terrible scene. And my ex had to just pull himself away. And my son was inconsolable. And I don't know what's with him, what's wrong. I want you to evaluate him to see if how he's adjusting. Make sure that he doesn't need maybe therapy. Okay. So I saw the boy, bright boy, very precocious, and above average in intelligence, clearly. And I did my evaluation. I saw that he didn't have any symptoms of any psychological problems, emotional problems. And I had a poster in my office, which I still have in my waiting room in my Brooklyn office, where I have a waiting room. And it's a very famous poster. It says, children learn what they live. You may have seen it. It's a very famous poster. It begins, children who live with hostility learn to condemn. And it goes through a whole long list of, if children live with this, they learn that, so on. So this little boy was able to read at 6 years old, maybe he was 7, couldn't be more than 7. And he was able to read. And he's reading this list. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to condemn. He says, is that about me? I said, well, do you live with hostility, with anger? He said, no. I said, well, then that doesn't apply to you. Okay, he reads the next one. Child lives with, he learns too. He said, does that apply to me? I said, well, do you live with that? No. Okay. We go down the list. We go down the whole long list. And he says, which one is about me? I said, well, did you feel any of those applied to you? He said, no. He said, well, you know what? Let's make one up now about you. I said, okay. I said, if a child lives with, what do you live with? He's thinking. He says, I live with a mommy and a tati who are divorced. I said, okay. So here's a piece of paper, and you write it out, and I'll attach it to my poster. So he writes, if a child lives, and he asked me how to spell child, and lives with, and I told him the spelling. If a child lives with a mommy and a tati divorced, he learns to be And he stopped. He looks at me, he says, well, how do I finish it? You know, all the others said he learns this, he lives with this, he learns that. So what's the end of mine? I said, well, if a child lives with a mother and father divorced, he learns, well, what do you live with? He's thinking a minute. He says, I'm sad. I said, well, that's how you should finish it. So he wrote, if a child lives where his mother and father are divorced, he learns to be sad. And that's how we finished it. I had it for many years attached with Scotch tape to my poster hanging in my office. Now, I'm not suggesting, Rabbosai, that anyone here, chas v'shalom, is contemplating divorce. I'm sure if you've been coming to the Vaad regularly, I'm sure your shalom bias is above average. But I want to talk about children of divorce tonight because it's very possible that you know someone who's considering divorce. And maybe no one in the room tonight even knows anyone who's considering divorce. But it's highly likely that at some point in the future you will know someone who's considering divorce. And if and when you do, then it's very important that whoever it is that's considering divorce consider very seriously the impact that's going to have on the children. Now, what do Chazal have to say about this? Well, if we're talking about Gittin, we need to go to Masechta Gittin. And the Masechta Gittin, at the end, in Daf Tzadik Amud Beis, the very end of the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Kol ha'megaresh ishto rishona, whoever divorces his first wife, afilu mizbeach morid alav demos. Even the mizbeach and the Mesa Bingdash shed tears because of this terrible tragedy that took place in the Yiddish home. Shenamar, how do we know that? What's the makar for that? So the Gemara brings two psukim from Sefer Malachi. V'zo shenis tasu ksus dima es B'ezras Hashem b'chi v'anaka. And furthermore, this also causes the Mizbeach to be covered with tears and sighing and crying. Me'ein od pnos el hamincha v'lakach ratzon miyadchem. That it will no longer accept in favor your offerings from your hands on Mizbeach. V'amartem alma. And you'll ask, how did this come about? That the Mizbeach is no longer accepting the karbonos from your hands? Al ki Hashem he'id beincho ubein eshes neurecha, that Hashem himself testifies between you and the wife of your youth, asher ata bogda ba, you betrayed her. V'hi chaversecha ve'eshes brisecha, and she is your companion and the wife of your covenant, and you divorced her. So Chazal make it very clear that even though the Mishnah seems to imply you could divorce a wife for hardly any cause at all, but the Gemara makes it clear that although a divorce is valid for any cause, and it's halachically effective, but clearly it's something that needs to be avoided at all costs, as the Gemara ends off as Messiah the Masechta, that the Mizbeach literally sheds tears. Now, that's as far as divorce goes, and what Chazal have to say about trying not to take that drastic step. But our topic for this evening is the children of divorce. Now, the Gemara ends with those two psukim in Malachi, but the immediate pasuk after that is not brought in the Gemara, but that's what I want to focus on with you this evening, Rabbosai. The next pasuk, Malachi, Perek Beis, pasuk Tes Vav, continuing along, the Navi is giving Musar to the Yidden who, Rachmana litzlan, divorced their wives and married shiksas. And the Navi is giving Musar about this. And he says, V'lo echad asa, u'sha'ar ruach lo, u'ma echad mavakesh, zera elokim, v'neshmartem bruchachem, u'be'eshes ne'urecha al yivgod. Now there's different pshatim what this pasuk is talking about. Rashi brings the first pshat, where it says, Lo echad asa, the one did not do it. What's the one reference to? It's a reference to Avram Avinu. That the people at the time might say, well, look, we're not so bad. After all, Avram Avinu took a second wife, a shiksa, after his first wife. So we're doing the same thing. We're marrying shiksas too. What's so terrible? So Rashi says that this is a reference to Avram Avinu, the echad, one. It's very interesting that I mentioned at the last Vaad about the Targum, and I don't want to give anyone a mistaken impression that I'm a bucky in Targum, which I'm not, but it is very interesting. The Targum usually only translates the Psukim literally, doesn't add or subtract, but this happens to be another pasuk where the Targum adds a word which is not in the text. The text says, Lo echad asa, and the Targum says, Halo chad hava Avram yechidi. The pasuk doesn't mention Avram's name. Rashi says the echad refers to Avram because he was the unique personality, echad yechidi. So the first pshat in Rashi is that this pasuk is quoting the response of the people who are receiving the Musar, and they're saying, listen, don't give us Musar. Didn't Avram Avinu do the same thing? Usha'ar ruach lo. And he had a special, unique spirit. He was on a very high madreg, and he did the same thing. So what are you complaining? What are you criticizing us for? Then the pasuk continues, Uma echad mevakesh. And what was his purpose, though? Answers the Navi. Why did he take a non-Jewish wife after he was already married to Sari Menu? Mevakesh zer elokim. He wanted to have children. Sari Menu was an akara. For 10 years she didn't have children. That's why he took Hagar as a wife. Not to satisfy his taivas. He wanted to have children. Zer elokim. That's one pshat. The Malbim has another pshat, elaborates on, Rashi refers to it, that the lo echad asa, the echad is a reference to the first human being, that's Adam Harishon. Now, the Malbim points out, that, saying what the pasuk is referring to here, is that we see in the B'ezras Hashem, all creatures were created male and female, husband and wife. There were male horses and female horses, male chickens and female chickens, created B'shas B'ezras Hashem. But by human beings, there was only one original creature that had both male and female in the one creature. Du partsufim. The Medrash says it was one guf, one body. Zachar and Nekeva ba'aro, some that were created together, and then the Kadosh Baruch Hu separated them. Why was it done that way? Why was the creation of human beings so different from that of animals? So the Malbim says on this pasuk that the reason that was done was because there's a special mission that human beings have that animals don't. And what's that mission? Uma echad mevakesh, and echad, the second echad in the pasuk, the Malbim says, is a reference to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem echad. Uma echad mevakesh. What is the Kadosh Baruch Hu's purpose in a husband and wife coming together in marriage? Zera Elokim. When a man and a woman have children, that's a Tselem Elokim. The animals don't create Tselem Elokims. Men and women, when they get married, create Tselem Elokims. And that's the tachlis of marriage. That's the purpose of a husband and wife getting married. And that's what the pasuk is referring to. It's for the sake of the children. Now, I heard a story recently that I want to share with you about the Debrecen Rav Zatzal, whom I knew. He was nifta maybe 20, 25 years ago, I don't remember exactly. I asked him shilas. I wouldn't say I had a close kesher with him, but he was a tremendously, tremendous Talmud Chacham, to say the least. He was a Baal Halacha. He was mechaber many sforim of shalas and shuvas. At the time when he was alive, when a Rav would give halacha shir, he would say, Reb Moshe holds like this, Debrecen holds like that, and the shir would go. I mean, they were mentioned in the same breath. I'm not saying he was equal to Reb Moshe, but he was certainly in his league, we'll put it that way. Now, even though I'd gone to him for shilas, I wouldn't say I had a close kesher with him. But about 30 years ago, I put out a booklet as a Shiva guide in English. And I was asked to do so by the largest Chevra Kadisha in New York. They commissioned me to write this in English, which I did. And when I was finished, I said to the publisher, I said, you know, a thing like this really needs haskama. I'm not a Rav that I should be mechaber or sefer on a halacha. It should have haskama. So he said, okay, if you want to have haskama, fine. So I went to a very chashuv Rav that I had shaykhus with and still do in Borough Park, Rabbi Label Katz. And I asked him if he'd give me a haskama on the sefer. He said, listen, I'd be willing to do it for you, but I think you should go to somebody bigger. When I told him what it was about, he said, you told me that 10,000 copies are going to be printed and distributed for free as a public service. This requires someone bigger. You should go to the Debrecen Rav. I said, look, I asked him shilas, but I don't think have a relationship with him. I could ask him for haskama. He said, don't worry about it. I'll take you over. Let's go now. So Debrecen Rav Zatzal was not someone who had office hours. You can only come in at certain hours, certain times. He sat at his dining room table, learned all day. People came in and out, asking him shilas. He would interrupt, go to people. That's how we did it. So we knocked on the door. Rabbi Katz said, I'm with this younger man. He wrote this booklet. It's going to be distributed very extensively. It needs haskama. The Debrecen should please look it over and give him a letter. Debrecen said, well, I'd be happy to do it. He says, but I don't paskin shilas in English. This is written in English. I can't, I'm not I'm not fluent enough in English to go through it. So Rabbi Katz says, so you'll get a kol younger man to go through it with you. But he needs the haskama from the Debrecen. So the Debrecen said, okay, he'll do it. So he got it. Hitaka got it, called the younger man, who went with him line by line, went through the booklet, and Hitaka gave me a letter of haskama, which they decided not to print in the book, but I have it at home, and saying that he looked through the whole thing. It's ois gehalten al pi halacha. People can rely on it. And then he wrote 3 words which were very, very dear to me in that letter. I don't remember the wording of the whole letter. I have it at home, but 3 words that were very, very dear to me. He wrote, Kedai lismach olav, which was a very big compliment. And the booklet was printed, and it's out of print now, but 10,000 were distributed. It was translated in a few languages, I believe, in other countries as well. But the story about the Debrecen that I heard was that not too long ago, a few years ago, exactly how many I don't know, one of the Debrecen Ravs, Eniklach, went out to the Beis Olam to daven at the Zayda's kever. And while he's there, he sees a couple standing also at the kever, pouring out their tears, crying bitterly, weeping and crying, they're uncontrollable. He didn't know who they were, didn't recognize them. They weren't family members, some strangers. And it's been many years since the Debrecen was nifter, and it's not a kever that people go to so much that they're so familiar to go to daven. It wasn't like there were crowds of people there. So after he finished davening, and they're walking away from the kever, he says, excuse me, I hope you don't mind me asking, but this is my Zayda that you were davening in his kever. What was your shaykhus with him? He said, you want to know, is your Zayda? Okay, I'll tell you. When we first got married, it wasn't going so well. It wasn't so smooth. were having a difficult time adjusting to each other. And after about a year or so, we decided this is just not going to work. It's not going to work. We have to separate. We have to get divorced. And we were both maskim. It wasn't a contention. It wasn't a bitter disagreement. We both realized we'll just have to get divorced. So we came to Yazeda, Debretzina, Rav, and we said, would you be Masada the get for us? We want to be done completely Oska Halton, and we want somebody chashav to be Masada the get. Could you be Masada the get for us? We said, we tried, and we just can't manage to get together. He said to us, do you have children? We have one infant. That's it, one infant, 6-month-old boy. So he said to us, okay, you want me to be Masada the get? I will. But I have to see the baby first. See the baby before you can... I want you to bring the baby to me, both of you. And then I'll be Masada the get, but I want to see the baby first. Okay. I mean, you want to see the baby for? But, all right. So we came back, and we brought the baby. So she said, what a beautiful baby. Kanai Nahara, gorgeous baby. He said, may I hold him? I said, of course. Absolutely. They handed him over the baby. He took the baby in his arms. What a beautiful Kanai Nahara. He's holding the baby. Then he started talking to the baby. He said, you know, I'm a Rav, says to the baby, and part of a Rav's job is to be Masada Gittin. So your parents came to me, and they asked me if I would be Masada or get for them. So I said to them, of course, I'd be willing to do so, and I'm going to be Masada or get for them. But before I do, I feel I have to apologize to you, because I know what this means now. It means in another less than 3 years, you'll have an upsharing. And your mommy and tati won't be able to be there together to celebrate your first haircut and take you to cheder and wrap you in a talis. They won't both be there together when you come in to the cheder to learn Aleph Beis and lick the honey from the Aleph Beis. And then, you know, a few years later after that, about 10 years, you'll have a bar mitzvah. And both parents won't be able to be there, the bar mitzvah, because your parents are going to be divorced. And then you'll go on and eventually you'll get married. And when you get engaged, both parents won't be able to be together at the Vaad. And you'll send out invitations to your chasna, and your parents will have to be listed separately. And they won't both be there at every Sheva Brachas because they're going to be divorced. So I have to apologize to you that you're going to have to go through all this and that I'm going to be Masada the get for your parents. And when he finished, he handed the baby back to us. We were both crying. And we left his house and we decided we can't do this. We can't do this to him. We're just going to have to make it work. And we did. That was 23 years ago. That little boy is a chassan. He's getting married now. We felt we had to come back. We had to ask Yungerleit to come to the chasana, to invite him. He's no longer here, but we felt he deserved to come. He's certainly part of the simcha. So the Einikel of the Debretzina Rav thanked him very much for sharing the story. And I wanted to share it with you because I think it drives home the point that certainly divorce is an option and sometimes it's necessary. But when there's children involved, you have to think very, very carefully about taking that option. And all efforts need to be expended before you take that option. And that's the message that I hope you'll share with anyone that you know or will know who's ever considering a divorce. I just want to tell everybody that the next Vaad B'ezras Hashem will be in 4 weeks, which comes out to February 4th. And I hope I'll see you all in B'ezras Hashem then. And have a good Chodesh.